Federal workers are in a D.C. courtroom now urging a judge to stop the White House from shuttering the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Already, DOJ has hollowed it out. Employees were sent home and basically told to stop working. Its former director, who was fired by Donald Trump, says doing that, hollowing out the Consumer Protection Board, puts Americans with mortgages, with student loans, medical debt, and more at risk. And he warns the slasher in chief, I'm talking about Elon Musk, could have another goal, laying the groundwork for a wild west of big tech currencies operating with no government oversight. That former director, Rohit Chopra, is here now. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. So this is really because there's so many things that the CFPB does or did until a few weeks ago. But I do want to talk about Elon Musk. And just to start this conversation with a tweet that he put out there in a couple of months ago. When he rebranded Twitter as X, he said he wanted it to be an everything app where you could conduct your entire financial world. So now what is happening as Musk and his team, they have access to pretty much everything in the federal government, sensitive data about and by and from American citizens. So explain in layman's terms why this is such a big deal.
Well, you know, big tech companies in the US have really been drooling at what they see in China, where Chinese tech companies can conduct surveillance on all Chinese citizens and what they're buying every day. So they're all trying to train their algorithms, artificial intelligence, and that's why you see Google Pay, Apple Pay, and now X Money wants to be able to know everything you're buying, how much you're paying for it, and what were you thinking about at the time. And this really could lay the groundwork for the end of the price tag, where we are purchasing goods based on our behavior and our web browsing history rather than a transparent price, because that is the way these tech companies can make a huge amount of money.
And how can his access to virtually all of our data help advance his goal to do that in his private company?
Well, people have been wondering, why are they so fixated with this a small agency like the CFPB? It's because the CFPB is responsible for monitoring all of those tech companies for how they're moving our money to protect against privacy, errors, and fraud. And if they can creep in there and look even at their competitors, that could be a big edge for them. You know, I really worry that when we buy an airplane ticket or something online, it should really be a fair price that you and I see the same thing. But more and more Americans are noticing that the price may be different based on who is looking at it and when. And that really raises some real issues about intrusive pricing in our life.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed that. Even when I've gone back to look for a ticket, the price goes up because they know I really want it. But let's stay focused on Elon Musk for a second, because just to go back to the concern that you've expressed about DOJ snooping on loan or mortgage data, why is that something that he can really benefit from, again, in his company and in his ultimate goal, which, if you know anything about his sort of business evolution, from the very beginning, he has been really interested in having a platform that is everything, and that when he bought X, he wanted it to transform into a financial payment process, just like a sort of an advanced version of what PayPal was.
Yeah, I mean, 5 years ago, we saw the same thing from Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook, where they tried to create a new global currency. And they were pretty open about it, that if they could have their own currency, they could track people spending across their digital life. And they would be able to charge companies that are using that currency big money. And this is, I think, part of a broader effort to create currencies that are outside of oversight when it comes to fraud, privacy, and more. In fact, the Senate right now is thinking about letting those tech companies create their own currencies And that raises just real questions about power, oversight, and could it actually lead to a risk to our financial system?
So there's the creating your own currency, which he's not the only one who's wanted to do this. I mean, we see this at other big tech companies and also other big financial companies as well. But the argument that he has made about the access that he has now to all of our data is that he had the same access when he was at PayPal, and he didn't do anything to, to disrupt or to use it in an untoward way. But can you just explain whether or not it is, never mind the latter part of what I just said, but explain why having access to data via PayPal and having access to data via the federal government are two different things?
Well, I mean, it's all about volume and all about the types of transactions that you can ingest information about. Look, a lot of these companies are taking in huge amounts of data to train artificial intelligence, and those models might be used to determine what prices we pay on things. It might also be used for a whole host of other commercial purposes. Part of the reason why we separate off our financial privacy and our health privacy is because when it falls into the wrong hands, that data, there is a big mismatch and abuse of power, and it is why we should not let these big tech companies control our nation's currency.
And right now there is no one at your now former agency, which you were head of, who's doing the basic job of trying to protect consumers that they were enacted or sort of the legislation passed and the president signed it into law in order to do.
What's really suspicious is that some of the first people they fired were the technologists, those who specialize in overseeing these tech companies. I think they were illegally fired, but isn't it something that they were the first to be on the chopping block?
Thank you so much for coming in. I hope you come back. Appreciate it.